And what I know is that I saw Julie acting as her attorney and before the judge in a hearing where she was trying to get parental rights. She's trying to get more visitation, or at least partial custody. And whatever it was that she was trying to get, she did not get. And I remember when I was sitting there, I remember feeling like that woman had, I sensed that her lawyer was not saying the right things that would work in her best interest in winning. So I knew from that demonstration that Julie was not the best lawyer, or that she was deliberately working with the judge and the system to have this woman's rights sort of stripped down. And I think that I remembered seeing Julie even smirking over at the judge. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was a feeling that I had that that woman who was trying to fight for her child, and who was truly disabled in every sense of the word, she was really not getting the kind of defense that she should have had. And there were arguments that could have been made more forcefully, and there was probably documentation and evidence that should have been in the file to back up the argument. And I just remember it was kind of like nobody cared about her. I mean, they seemed to care more about her than they ever cared about me, because with me it was just slam dunk. But maybe with her too, they tried to make a show of not discriminating against the disabled woman, when really that's what they were doing. And I remember that some of the people who were on the woman's side, they didn't like me. I mean, there were some people in the courtroom that really had some animosity towards me. And what I was told about her by this man, all I knew is that she had no place to live. And I guess maybe after the military and police in the town and the lawyers were done using her and swapping her around, I guess that maybe, by that time, they're like, go ahead, have her, she's all yours. And she started living out in the woods with this guy and who had a cabin in the woods. Or a house. I don't want to call it a cabin because I was never out there, but I had the impression of some kind of a large cabin of some type. And what he was saying to me is he had said, after the police were telling me to move and get out of the area and all this, he said if I needed a place to stay, I could go out there too. And I just didn't ever feel that was a good idea. I couldn't be that far out into the country, and I didn't feel safe being in the country with a strange person. It's one thing to sleep on the floor of someone's house, knowing that you could hopefully run out the door if needed. But it's another thing to be stranded, without a car, 40 miles from anywhere. And I remember he seemed to be pleasant enough. This guy Michael. But he said, she's really got some problems. He said the other day, she's a nudist and she likes to walk around naked. And I said, what do you mean she likes to walk around naked? And he said, oh, she just will strip down all of her, take off all of her clothes, and she'll be outside walking around nude. And I didn't really have the impression that she walked around nude because she was sort of incapacitated, as in physically or mentally incapacitated from her stroke. I had the impression that her disability was mainly physical, that she mainly had a physical disability, and she had some problems with her speech and articulating things because of the stroke. But as for making decisions about whether to be dressed or not, I mean, it wasn't like she was outside in freezing cold weather or anything like that. What he was saying is that she was a nudist, and I think that he was saying she practiced earthy things and like Wiccan stuff. And I have no idea if he was intimate with her. I kind of had the impression that they were together for a little while and then she wasn't anymore and she was trying to get her son back. But I really don't know. I know that she had been connected to and had dated a lot of different men in town. And yeah, he worked for the federal government. He was a post office worker. Post office worker. And when he was in my house, he wanted to show me this album that he had, a collection of coins, because he collected coins. And I think what he kept telling me at the time was, before my son was ever taken away from me, or right about the time that I was having problems, because that's when, he was saying you could move out there. He wanted me to meet Julie, and he said maybe you could get her to help you with something. And so I sort of met her before CPS did anything to me, and maybe it was because someone wanted me to meet her, and then they thought that I would request her if the state took my son away. I mean, like, basically they're premeditating what to do with me and my son, and hoping that I would maybe contact Julie if I had already met her and saw her defending a woman, or trying to defend a woman, supposedly. But again, what I thought is that she wasn't really doing that woman any favors. And then what happened is, after Paul Castle, after I'd been told that I was on my own with no notice, I was then refused a lawyer for the longest time, until I made contact with Julie. I think it was Julie Anderson. And when I made contact with her about that time, that's when the judge said, okay, find somebody who will work with you. Actually, no, he didn't say that. I take that back. In all honesty, I believe what he said was, you can go find someone yourself. I will give you the right to a lawyer. And he did this after months of my not having a lawyer. So basically a year had gone by where I didn't have an attorney. And he said to me, I will allow you to have a replacement attorney, but you have to find the person. And I said, okay. And so I remember I called a bunch of different law firms, and not one of them would take my case. And then they all kept trying to push me towards Julie. And so I guess in hindsight, it wasn't like I had talked to Julie and then the judge said, okay, I'll give you a lawyer. And knowing that it was Julie, it was more of a situation where he said, you find your own lawyer, and everybody in the town already knew that the only person who was going to take it would be Julie, and that I had already been introduced to her before this country ever tried to assault me and my son and take him from me to begin with. And guess who Julie is connected to? Well, her husband is United States military, of course. I mean, how perfect. Because then she's connected to the military, and almost every other person in that case proceeding, aside from being majority Catholic, they were probably like 80% Catholic, everyone was military connected. It's going to be great. But I didn't think about it at the time. What I was told is I had to find my own lawyer. And I went to a bunch of firms because I figured the firms would have more people and more resources, more money. And I was turned down by all of them. And then they were telling me, have you talked to Julie? And her name kept coming up. And I never should have gone to her. And actually what her husband did is he stole from me. He stole evidence from me. Aside from the guy, Ben, going through my bag and taking my memory cards from my video camera, and that kind of thing, the other person who stole from me was Julie Anderson's husband. And he was supposed to be helping me. But he stole evidence from me. And he's connected to the military.